Hey guys, it's Sean from the Audrain. We're here in Rhode Island at one of our storage facilities, and we recently put a lot of our Porsches together in one building, and we wanted to just do a little walkthrough with you guys, point out some special cars, some cars that maybe you haven't seen in some exhibits. So yeah, here we are. This is what you see when you walk into the building. It's a pretty special thing. You're greeted by this really cool Dakar, which has quickly become one of the favorites, not only to our chairman, but to those who get to drive the cars in the collection. It's super unique in the fact that it's a GTS, so it's got plenty of power, but you're not afraid to really drive it over potholes, and the suspension is just quite magnificent in that, you know, you still know you're driving a 911, but you have that hinting feeling that you just want to drive it off a cliff. And it's a really unique blend, and it's a lot of fun. Something that you'll see, this car is number 486, and that ties to our collection, specifically with the Porsches. I'll get into that a little bit when we get to the Carrera GT. But when you walk in the door, you're greeted with some of our yellow cars, right? So we have our GT2 RS, followed by the 911R. Our last car that we ordered in yellow was the GT4 RS, which is an amazing car. The noise in this thing is immaculate. For everyone who's seen the reviews online, everyone driving it all says the same thing, and it is true. Driving one of these is, the noise it creates is just utter, you can't even describe it. Videos don't do it justice, you just got to drive it. And then our Carrera GT. If you saw a few weeks ago, we posted our recall service that we did, the major recall that Porsche did for the Carrera GT. The car is back now, fitted with its new tires and new suspension components. Joe, who oversees our cars as far as detailing goes, just put a coat of ceramic on it, so it looks beautiful. All of our cars are clear wrapped, and then we do put a coat of ceramic on it for extra protection. So that extra additional care really enhances when the car is on the road and when we're showing it. And then of course we have our 918 right next to the Carrera GT, sort of the two halo cars in the Porsche lineup. Now what's unique, going back to the 486 connection, when this car was purchased new, Nick, our chairman, purchased this, and it is chassis 486. And when the 918 came out, we were actually able to get chassis 486 for the 918. And going forward, after the 918, any limited production car that Porsche came out with that we purchased as part of the collection, we went for number 486. So there's a number of cars I should say, in this collection that are chassis 486. The 911R is one of them, of course the Dakar, and then you'll see a few more as we walk down the row here. So as we continue to walk in this space, you'll see that we put all of our RS cars that we have, or most of our RS cars that we have up here together, starting with the 3.8 GT3 RS, which is, Antonio and I just recently did a video. Everyone who drives this car, it's one of their favorites, a top 3 car. We also have the 3.6, which is in our Virginia location, which Antonio is going to show us in another video. All the cars that we have down there, the Porsches specifically. So not all the Porsches are up here, but most of them are. So we put all the RS cars together. We have our 991.1 GT3 RS in Lava Orange. If you've participated in any of our track days or watched our track day videos, this car gets a lot of time on the track. I've driven it on the track. It's an incredible machine, and really the beginning of the PDK sequential transmission, going from the manual transmission to that, really elevating that track experience, making the cars that much faster. And of course now, you only can get a GT3 RS in a PDK. So this was really the beginning of that evolution. Of course, followed by our 991.2 GT3 RS with the Y-Sock package, adding the additional carbon elements, lightweight, designed for, of course, ultimate track days and track day performance. And our newest GT3 RS in Ruby Star paint to sample. When we were configuring this car, we were really looking for a unique color, and we thought with there's a lot of black accents on this car, so we decided to go with a more unique color, Ruby Star. Paints a sample, of course, and really, I think it turned out great. Everywhere we bring the car, gets a really positive reaction, and of course with the silver wheels, I think really dialed it in. And we did keep the calipers in yellow, and we did yellow pulls for the door just as a nod to our collection. A few other small details, the wing end caps, we actually painted in Ruby Star. That was a request that we added. And then of course the door sills have our number 486 on it. So a lot of little touches to this car, Y-sock package, and just, I'm really happy with how it came out in the Ruby Star. I think it was a good touch. It was a little risky, you know, a lot of people are purplish pink car, but with all the accents on it, really, really nice. Another GT4 RS to end this lineup here. So really a cool lineup, as you see all the RS cars. Kind of pinch yourself every time you walk in here. If we continue on, more of the modern Porsches, we have our 991 GT3, and then we have two 992 GT3s. One in shark blue, kind of the launch livery, and this very special one here is a paint to sample plus that we did. So we actually had to send Porsche a color that we wanted. They had to verify it before, you know, of course, saying that they could do it, apply it to the car. That took almost 2.5 years. Jay and Donald drove this car, and they talk about that process a little bit, but we actually named the color Audrain Green, and you can now order this color if you go to a Porsche dealer and you decide you want a new Porsche. You go to a paint to sample, you can order Audrain Green. So it's really cool that they did that, and this is another car. Every time we bring it out, we're always asked, you know, what color is that? It's such a special thing. So camera doesn't really do it justice, but when you're in the sunlight, you really get to see the gold flake that comes out, and it's just a really beautiful thing. Following the Audrain Green car, we have our 991 Turbo S exclusive. A lot of these were painted gold. That was an option that you could get. It was like a goldish, beautiful color. We elected with this red. I believe it's guards red, and I think it really enhances the car nicely with all the black accents again, and unique in the fact that most of these cars were ordered in that gold color. So this is a really great car. It's a, you know, you could drive this to California and back and not even think about it. And very well equipped, and a lot of the little features that you got with the exclusive series, all the gold stitching, the seats, the gold, really cool. I love the hood, all the carbon fiber, just a really unique part of Porsche's 911 history. And then of course we have our Speedster, the 991 Speedster with the Heritage Pack. Porsche usually comes out with a Speedster at the end of a generation, so this being the 991 generation, this is one of the last models, limited production. This is a 486 serial number, chassis number. And the number 35 signifies Nick, the chairman's 35th wedding anniversary. So this car they got around that time, and they decided to put the number 35 on it. And when the Targa came out, the Heritage Targa, we just continued that theme and put the 35 on that as well. So we have these two cars together. Amazing cars. Another limited production car, number 486. This is one of the most driven cars that we have in the Porsche lineup. It goes on a lot of our rallies that we do. And if you want to join us on any rallies, tours, we do a number of them a year, and more than likely you'll see some of these cars on it. So go to audrainmotorsport.com, check it out. Like I said, 50th anniversary of Porsche Design. So for the anniversary of Porsche Design, all the products that they make, all the really cool things, clothing, everything that they make, the glasses, they came out with this GTS Targa limited production car, number 486 of course. And this has become, again, one of the chairman's favorite cars to drive. Just an amazing, plenty of power, really well done, and like I said, gets driven quite a bit. Coming along here, we have the Sport Classic. When this car was announced, this was one of the most anticipated Porsches for a very long time, I would say. 7-speed manual transmission with the ducktail and the the bubble roof. Really, really cool design. And when we were designing this car, when we were speccing it out, Nick really wanted to kind of emulate his Singer. So the Singer, which you'll see over there, we'll get to, Singer kind of did their own Golf livery without using the official colors. So this is actual Golf blue with the Golf orange, which actually Porsche will now no longer do. We had to pay a royalty fee to do this, but I was told recently when we were speccing another car that you can actually no longer get Golf in any Porsche. And a few things that we did unique, probably the only one you'll see is we actually painted the inside barrel of the wheel Golf orange, and then they, of course, kept that to continue that Fuchs look, as opposed to painting the whole thing. So really cool feature there, and you can actually, I believe now, order cars with the painted barrels, but this was the first one I saw. And great car. This got driven in the Tail of the Dragon recently, and got a lot of looks. And it's just a incredible car, turbocharged, very comfortable, has the heritage interior, an amazing machine. And then probably the most anticipated car Porsche's made in a very long time, the 911 ST. Everyone knows about it right now, right? And I've driven it a little bit. I haven't really had a chance to open it up too much, but what I can tell you is the hype is definitely real. This is one of the most incredible cars I've ever driven, period. And as you can see, we got it in a unique color. We got it in Viola Metallic, a paint to sample color, with the heritage interior again. So this beautiful dark purple with that dark tan interior is very nice. And we did elect not to get the number on it. We did more of a subtle design on the spec, just the Porsche script on the side. So it really looks more of a subtle take as opposed to like the Golf Sport Classic here. But everything about this car so far, that when I've driven it, it just elevates the 911 to that next level. The 992 generation, everything that you want it to be, this is it. And it really is a special thing, and one of those cars that I think it would be hard to pass up. If someone said if you could have one or two cars in the collection, this I think would probably be right up there. So we're at our 356 corner, starting with our 1964 Carrera 2. Very special car. It's the 4-cam motor. So in period in 1964, this car had about 130 horsepower, which was incredible, power to weight ratio. Driving this car now, it's fast. And in 1964, you must have felt like just an absolute badass. It's also the first Porsche to have disc brakes. So a lot of firsts on this car, really performance-oriented car, very expensive car in period. And of course, being a 4-cam now, it's really the cream of the crop. Also unique that it was a sunroof car. So about 30 4-cam Carreras 2s were sunroof cars. One of my favorites in the collection. Again, just one of those cars that really, once you drive it, you get to experience what a Carrera 2 is. You're kind of hooked, to say the least, and that's the great thing about Porsche is you can drive all these different models, and there's always something that's slightly better or better. And from the 356 standpoint, this really is one of the best that you can get. So one of the highlights of the Porsche collection for sure. And then a few more of the 356s. We have another 64. It's a C, just a beautifully restored 356 that gets driven regularly. Great car for the island. So we have our 1963 Porsche 356. It's a 60. So you kind of have the bookends, right? You have the base versus the most powerful option, and it's fun to be able to drive both. Again, a great car for the island. Beautiful buttercup cream color. And then right behind me is our 1960 356 that we recently had restored by Emery Motors, Emery Motorsport, and they unveiled this car at our Audrain Concours. They had the Emery reunion, so you were able to see this car, as well as a few other of our cars, as well as the whole Emery collection that they brought. So this one was beautifully restored by Emery Motorsports, and they kept a lot of the originality to the car. So this car has a lot of original patina to it, the emblems, the radio, and they really did an incredible job keeping that originality, but also doing a beautiful restored example of a car that was pretty much all there. So very happy to have this part of the collection, and it's fun to have this and the Carrera 2 out together because they really are about the same amount of horsepower, so it's fun to have both of them side by side. And then we have a beautiful Speedster here. We have a 1958 Speedster that was acquired actually at our Audrain auction a couple years ago, and Speed Sport tuning went through the entire car and really brought it back to its life. The car hadn't run in quite a while, and they did a full engine out service, really brought it back to where it should be, and this is just an incredible, incredible version of, you know, a 58 Speedster and another car that gets driven regularly. A theme that you'll see with our cars is, you know, we do drive them all. Of course, some get driven more than others, but they're all registered, they're all insured, they're all ready to be driven, and you can see how our storage is laid out, that every car, you know, if someone calls and says they need this, we can get it right out. And that's kind of our ethos here, is not only to preserve the cars, but to share them. And part of sharing them, of course, is driving them. So if we continue along here, this center row is a mix. So this is kind of our hot rod, resto-mod area of Porsche land, like we so lovingly refer to this. This is the 1960 Roadster that Rod Emery and his family recently did. We unveiled this along with the Super 90 at the Audrain Concours. It's an Albert Blue car. Nick Waller and I did a video on this car. This is another one of the cars that's part of the collection that I would probably do horrible things to own. I love this car so much. It's, you know, everything that I would do if I could get one of these cars. It is a cab, so a convertible. But for me, with kids and living on an island, I think it's hard to beat having an open top, especially with the power this provides, the noise with the Sebring exhaust, which we've talked about in the videos of the car driving. It's just really hard to beat. And beautiful thing about Emery cars is not only do they look like they've come from the factory, but you really can park these cars in a parking lot and people don't really know what it is. You know, they know mostly it's a Porsche, but the value of the car, everything like that, you aren't really, it's not like driving a Ferrari, right? And our first Emery. So this was the first Emery that our chairman Nick acquired. It's a 1956 356. And this is kind of what started his addiction, I would say, with the Emery cars, which I'm glad he has, because I think Emery Motorsports really does put out the best product for what they're doing, saving these cars. So we have we have a beautiful mix of Emery Outlaws as well as the original 356s. And we actually have a few more Emerys coming. That's why you'll see me standing in this open space here. If you were at the Audrain Concours this year at the Emery reunion, you may have seen Mike. The car is called Mike's 911. So one of our partners here has a 911 that's going to be coming from Rod. Rod's just doing some final touches on it, and it should be here in the next couple of weeks, and this is where it's going to live. And then one of the most popular cars on the channel, I would say, everyone who's driven this car, this is our 911 Targa that was modified by Bruce Canepa. We call it our Canepa car. It's a 4-liter, 400 plus horsepower open Targa. And this thing is just, we've talked about it extensively on the channel. It's Antonio's favorite car. It is just wild. And, you know, if you want to see an in-depth review on it, watch Bruce and Ben Chester driving this in California. It's pretty crazy. Here you see our Singer, which when referring to our Sport Classic, a lot of the design cues of the Sport Classic came as an inspiration from this here, Singer's version of a Golf livery. This was acquired a few years back, and it was actually, I believe, the first Singer that sold at public auction. So It's an earlier Singer, one of the first 100, and it's popular on the channel. We've done a lot of driving videos. I really like this car because it's also subtle in the fact that it doesn't have a lot of the same design cues that Singers have. Like, for example, it doesn't have the center fuel cap right here. Kind of really just looks like a modified 911, but of course for the Porsche connoisseur, you know what you're looking at. Pretty hard to beat the fit and finish of a Singer as well. That's what they're famous for. The amount of hours that go into building these cars is incredible, and the product is immaculate. Great car, love it, and it also gets driven regularly. So now we're moving along to Porsche Motorsports. So you can see here, starting with our GT2 RS Club Sport, we have our Andal Cup car and what we lovingly refer to as our Michelin Cup car. So if you're familiar or have been to our track days, you've probably seen these cars, especially the Club Sport. This car gets a ton of track time, and it really is the most plug-and-play, I want to say, race car that I've ever experienced, right? I've never driven it, but just from a standpoint of, you know, turning the car on, it's got air conditioning, very simple to use. It's like driving a GT2 RS street car, but modified, and obviously Motorsports did their thing to make this thing what it is, and it really is just an absolute, it's amazing to see at speed. It's amazing what the product is, and it really just shows what Porsche will do for its customer who doesn't necessarily need to be a professional driver, but wants to experience the performance and what these cars are capable of. Now the Cup cars are on another level of, you know, these are true race cars essentially, and require a lot more, you know, having a team to take care of them and prep them and, you know, have them ready to go for you on the track, versus the Club Sport is just turn the key and go. So if you look inside the car, you can see it's obviously, we put the passenger seat in here too, because we like to scare our friends. And also it's good if you have a driving instructor with you, but you can remove these seats. So pretty intimidating getting in and out, but once you're in there, it's, you know, you got the 5-point harness and this incredible Recaro seat. And funny enough, some comments we get on our cars is a lot of our street cars, most of our street cars, we put the comfort seats in, the 18 ways, including the GT3 RSs, as opposed to the bucket seat that you can get from the factory. And the reason is because when we go to the track, these are the main cars that we're driving. They're designed to be driven hard on the track. Not that those aren't designed for the track, but these are the main cars that we're racing when we take cars on the track, versus the street cars we mainly use on the street. So yeah, that answers that. So we like G-bodies in the Audrain collection, and here's a handful or a number of them. We have our 87 cab, we have our 80 custom hot rod, if you will, and believe it or not, this is our chairman's favorite car. I'm not talking about Porsche, I'm talking about car in the collection. There's a lot of history with this car, and he just loves how this car is set up. Everyone who drives it agrees. It's just perfect for what it is. You know, we've taken a lot of time to get it to where it is now, and you can actually see from the detailing aspect with ammo. Ammo did a whole series on detailing this car, and we repainted the wheels recently. We put 8s and 9s on it to give it that turbo look. So it's really set up in a way that is subtle, but it's just one of those cars that when you drive it, it's just right. You know, you can drive another G-body back to back, and this one just feels more special. It's hard to explain, but I think for all of us who have driven cars, you can kind of understand what I'm saying. And there is a reason why this car is one of the chairman's favorite, if not favorite. And then we have another 80 SC here. This car, Road Scholars went through, repainted. The interior is all original. And we kind of wanted to go after that, what the car would be right off the factory when it was new. And I think we've achieved that very well. The only really modern thing we've done to it is we updated the radio to the modern PCCM radio. But other than that, the interior is completely original. This is how the car would be coming off that Porsche factory line. And then we have another Targa here, 1973. This one was customized by Gunner Racing, Kevin Jeanette. This was one of his personal cars. And Nick, our chairman, loved it. The interior is really cool, unique, and really speaks to the period, of the 70s. And it's hot rodded a little bit, so you get that additional performance. And of course, it's yellow, so you gotta have it. And lastly, we have our 1972 RSR Tribute. Now, we don't typically have tribute cars in the collection, but this is unique in the fact that Kevin Jeanette of Gunner Racing built this car with all factory RSR parts. So everything in this car is what you get in a factory RSR of the time. So everything is there. It just wasn't built by the factory. It was built by Kevin Jeanette. And another car that we've taken to track days, an epic example of a car, gets driven on the island frequently, and just a really, really special, well-sorted speed sport tuning went through this car extensively, got it to where, it should be, and another car that likes to beat the crap out of people. So it's a fun one to have. All right, so we left our other storage facility. We drove down the road to our Vanderbilt room, where we have the last three special cars we wanted to go over, starting with our 1955 Speedster. This was acquired part of the Begovich collection, which included 14 cars, including one we're going to walk over to in a moment. This car is incredible because it's an original example of a 1955, a very early Speedster. But what makes this car even more special is it's a 1600 Super. So at the time, this car, being a Speedster, was the least expensive car that you could get from Porsche. But this car was equipped with the most expensive motor, so it had the most amount of power. Very unique to have a Speedster with a 1600 Super. Not only that, but this is a very low mileage, all original car. It's a 10,000 mile car. Probably, arguably, the most original one in existence. And so original that we actually have the original tires from the factory on the original wheels. Now this is currently equipped with a second set so we can drive it, because you're not going to really want to drive on a car with tires from 1955. But when we show the car, and this car is going to be shown this year at a special event, we will equip it with the original 1955 tires from the factory. A lot of, the road scholars, when we acquired this car, went through the car. They'd never seen anything like it. Just how original, unmolested it was. Like all of the Nicholas Begovich cars. A lot of them he bought new, including this one. We're the second owner, and drove them for a period of time and put them away. And they've really never been touched since. So we're the caretakers of these incredible cars, and we love to show them. Like I said, the Mura we showed at Pebble Beach, 67 Mura, and the 904, which we're going to go over to in a minute, we've also shown at Pebble Beach and won first in its class. So definitely one of the highlights of the Porsche collection. So we're here in front of our 1967 911S. This was the first year for the S model. So you got that additional performance from the car. And this is arguably, I know I keep saying it, I feel like in this video you're gonna hear me say this is one of my favorites, but this really is a culmination of what 911 is to me. It's the short wheelbase. It just has the perfect proportions to it. It's an all original car, so you can see all the, the paint chips, and if you look on the roof, it's fading a bit. But it's been extremely well maintained its entire life. And being an S model, plenty of power, more power than you'll ever need even by today's standards. And just the way the car feels, the way it handles, the steering, the directness that you're getting from the steering, the feel from the gearbox, really just puts you in that period of time when this car came out and how you must have felt driving on the road in 1967. Now this car we bought and Speed Sport Tuning in Danbury, Connecticut, who handles all of our vintage Porsches, did an incredible job going through this car. It drove great and felt great before we sent it to them, or at least I thought. And then after we got it back, it really felt like a new car. And Jeff and Matt in the vintage department there really went through the car and engine out, did everything on this car to really get it to where it should be. And now it drives and handles and performs, the alignment, everything that they did to it really elevated it. And I wish everyone could drive this car. This is a car that, I'm often asked, if someone has to drive a car in the collection, what should it be? This one is one that I often go back to just because it's that perfect mix of, you're driving a vintage car, but you still feel like, there's certain vintage cars you drive, you want to drive it for 20 minutes, hand the keys off and drive it again in a year. This is a car that you really could live with every day. Whether you're a car person or not, I mean, it is just the ultimate package. It's got 4 seats, you can put your kids in it, and it really is just a spectacular car. And there's a reason why these are so valuable, is because of what you get with it. So we're finishing off here in Newport with arguably one of the most important cars we have in our collection. This is our 1964 904 GTS. This too was part of the Nicholas Begovich collection that we acquired. He did purchase it new, so we are the second owners. And very similar to all the cars in the collection, like the Speedster, he barely drove it. So this car has a little over 3,000 kilometers from new. It has to be the most original one in the world. A lot of these cars were crashed or raced, and they've made a very limited number of these. I think it was just over 108 or something along those lines. And this has to be the most original one in the world. And we presented this car at Pebble Beach a couple of years ago, and it won its class, the post-war preservation class. So best in class, and really just a exquisite example of Porsche's first fiberglass car. And when Nick Begovich bought it, he picked it up in Germany, and it was driven in Germany sparingly. That's where most of the miles came on it. And then he flew it over to California, and it pretty much sat in its collection until we acquired it. And we've driven it sparingly, but we do drive it. And this car was also restored mechanically, I should say, because the car was sitting for so long, by Jeff and Matt, again at Speed Sport Tuning. And they got the car back to life, prepared it for Pebble Beach. And the way this car drives is another one that's very hard to explain, because it is so light and so powerful with the 4-cam engine that it feels like, and because it's a race car, it needs to rev high. You always have to be 2,000-3,000 RPM at a minimum. But once it gets going, like, this is a go-kart for adults. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And driving this car on a track, I can't even imagine what it must feel like. The grip that you have, the mechanical grip with the power, and the steering is so light and so agile. It really is another car that I've had the privilege to drive, and it's very difficult to explain what the driving experience is like. Talking to Jeff Adams, who is the creme de la creme when it comes to restoring 4-cam cars, 356s, he said this car was as close to driving what it would have, a 904 from the factory would have been like. Everything in the engine was immaculate, perfectly stamped. He's never seen anything like it before. And, this car was just an absolute time capsule. So very privileged to have this part of the collection. We have a lot of videos on it on our channel. If you want to check those out, Donald's driven this. We've shown it, and it's one of those cars every time I just come look at, I could stare at all day, just because of how special it is, and what we have here. So thanks for joining us here in Rhode Island, looking at some of our Porsches. In a future video, Antonio is going to highlight the Porsches that are in our Virginia location. So you're not only going to be able to see what we have up here, but some of the cars that are in Virginia that aren't often up here. So get the full glimpse of all of our Porsche collection that we love talking about so much here on the Audrain Network. So thanks for joining. If you like this video, please subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.